Hey everyone, this is Adam Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology. Mercury has turned retrograde in the sign of Virgo, and so today we are going to do some flash horoscopes. These are just like brief horoscopes meant to touch on the whole sign houses in your birth chart that are being activated by Mercury's retrograde according to your rising sign. Of course, you could listen to this for your sun or moon if you like listening to sun or moon horoscopes. I always recommend the rising sign because that's going to correspond with the whole sign house version of your birth chart, which is where the transit is actually located right now. Unless you use a quadrant-based system, it should be pretty accurate. But anyhow, that's what we're doing today. We'll talk a little bit about some of the themes of this retrograde, where the retrograde is heading, things to watch for in general, and then where to look in terms of the topics activated by virtue of your rising sign. So before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe, share your comments and reflections. We love hearing from all of you. If you haven't heard me say this already, we are trying to get to 70,000 subscribers by the fall equinox. We are getting there. We're moving the needle. This is great. There's a lot of people we see in the analytics that watch but aren't subscribed. If it doesn't make a difference to you, the support would really mean a lot to us. We can grow our business and our community that way. We really appreciate it. You can find transcripts of any of these daily talks on the website, nightlightastrology.com, where you can also visit and check out our live talks that are coming up, webinars in August. The August webinar, is on the 8th house, the place of karmic debts. You can check that out under the live events tab on the website. Register to join the webinar. If you can't attend live, we send you the recording. And there's talks on Venus through the zodiac and the Venus placements by sign and what they mean, the story that Venus tells in our lives by sign, and then also a talk on astrological compatibility in October. Again, same thing, register, get the live link. If you can't make it live, we send you the recording. So on that note, let us now turn our attention to Mercury's retrograde. I am recording a few episodes today because it is my daughter's birthday and we have family in town. And I think I've told you guys recently, the episodes in July are usually a little bit more like micro videos or something, because they're like little micro doses of my normal content, because this is the time of year that I try to reserve for a little bit more family time, a little bit more downtime while the kids are home from school. And then typically things ramp back up in August. So try to give you guys good content, but maybe just a touch briefer. I take slightly less time and energy to prepare them so that I'm not missing valuable time. And it goes by so quick, you know. Anyhow, so on that note, let us now take a look at this Mercury retrograde. Now, technically, Mercury's retrograde began yesterday, but we were looking at the new moon yesterday. And so I'm just going to back this up and you'll see that the stationing is happening late last night, Monday, and the retrograde, according to my program on SolarFire, starts early in the morning. So, you know, yesterday into today is the day that Mercury starts moving backward. It's right after that new moon in Leo. If you missed the talk on new moon in Leo, you can check that out from yesterday. But what I want to do today is talk about a few of the signatures wrapped up in this retrograde and what to watch for sort of overall, regardless of what house it lands in, and then just some brief takes on the 12 rising signs and where that Mercury retrograde is going to land in your birth chart based on that. All right, so first of all, whenever Mercury is retrograde in one of its own domiciles, you typically have a much more constructive Mercury retrograde. I think of it like someone that is taking apart a lawnmower and knows exactly how to do it and knows how to put it back together. But when they put it back together, given this level of knowledge or know-how, they're going to put it back together maybe with a few new parts, or it's going to move even better or work even more smoothly than it did before. The reason for this is that when Mercury is so well dignified, the breakdown is still going, the breakdown that occurs at the time when Mercury is retrograding, which can mean delays, revisions, setbacks, a kind of editorial process in some area of our life that's taking place. You have a very skilled and adept Mercury who's signifying a lot of talent and ability, so to speak, when it comes to mercurial things. And one of the things Mercury naturally likes to do is take things apart. That is reflected by its retrograde. So, you know, think about Virgos. If you know any Virgos, think about how good a Virgo can be when it comes to meticulously organizing or, you know, sorting and maybe purging things in the drawer. If you wanted to have a really good line editor, you probably wouldn't be disappointed with a Virgo. So my point is that there is some real I think some real positive things to take away from the fact that this retrograde is happening with a well-dignified Mercury to start the cycle. Um, Mercury will retrograde into Leo a bit, and then the story shifts. But to start with, we're really isolating and looking at the retrograde cycle being anchored in the house topics of Virgo. And really, it's sort of like that's the main theme. We do have some carryover into Leo, and that's interesting, but I would really focus on the whole sign house of Virgo in your birth charts, which I'll be doing with the horoscopes. The next thing to look at is the fact that Venus, who is the ruler of Uranus and Taurus and this year's big Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, having recently gone through the square to Uranus, having recently appeared as the evening star, is immediately contacting this Mercury retrograde, which to me signals that whatever the revision process is, there is something about it that is aesthetic. It has to do with something sensual and embodied, something physical, something artistic, something relational, something that is embodied in the way that Venus is. That there is something on a Venusian level that requires attention or revision or, you know, a careful examining or critique and some kind of remaking. That is genuinely uncomfortable for Venus at times because Venus likes to bring things together and harmonize. It's like I would much rather be playing music than analyzing what went wrong with playing the music. But in order to play really beautiful music, you do at times have to pause and analyze, you know, is the timing right? Am I playing the right rhythm? Am I articulating the notes nicely? And so on. So I think about this as a Venusian moment of revision and clarification that is intimately tied to some of the revolutionary activity that Venus has been bringing forth recently. We can see this is true because after the fact that Mercury contacts Venus, Mercury will immediately carry that contact with Venus back into Leo, where immediately it will square Uranus, as though Mercury contacts Venus and gathers her feedback and her wishes and says, okay, we're going to do some kind of revising or editing and recreating, which Mercury retrogrades are very good at, but we're going to do it for Venus because I'm contacting Venus here right at the outset of my journey. And then immediately I'm carrying that back into a square with Uranus and Taurus, Venus's sign. Venus is now configured in a trine to Uranus, so they're working together cooperatively. At the same time, Venus is also at about the same time that Mercury squares Uranus, Venus opposes Saturn. And so this isn't altogether easy to bring about the editorial changes that Venus is looking for, whether that's in relationships or love or style or body or pleasure. The kinds of changes that Venus is seeking to substantiate are not going to be completely easy. There will be, especially right around this period, this is August 18th, right around the time of the full moon, there is a very active period of revolutionary activity. It's like, okay, in order for this revision to take place, we got to make there are going to be some big unexpected twists and turns. Not all of which will be easy, and we may face some setbacks or we may have to clear some hurdles or obstacles in our path. But this is required for the kind of Venusian revolution that we've been seeking to take place. All right, so you can, in a way, the story continues to be about Venus, ruler of the recent Jupiter-Uranus dynamic. So Mercury will then go through the heart of the sun. And, oops, here we go. And as it goes through the heart of the sun, the full moon is coming through, and both are still squaring Uranus as Venus is opposing Saturn. This is the crucible of the transformation that Venus is working through and that Mercury is carrying out in Venus's name. Notice that Venus is in Mercury's sign while Mercury is going through the heart of the sun, squaring Uranus. The full moon is coming through, on and on. So I want us to think about this as an editorial process related to a Venusian vision, related to Venusian changes. It's big, though. It's big if you listen to the full moon or the new moon in Leo talk I did. It is bigger than just Venusian changes. These Venusian changes are connected to our sense of life purpose overall. And that we can see because of how powerful the sun in its own sign is configured to Uranus at the same time that Mercury is working on behalf of Venus through the heart of the sun. This is not just a Venusian editorial process. This is a Venusian editorial process that has a pretty deep connection to our overall sense of life purpose. So, some profound astrology wrapped up in this Mercury retrograde cycle. What I would like to do now is let's put Aries up on the ascendant and give you just some brief impressions. And I'm going to focus on the starting point of this cycle, which is in Virgo. And we're going to back this up to today, Tuesday, August 6th. Get Aries on the ascendant. So when it comes to Aries, this revision process is something that requires sacrifice, landing as it is in the 6th house. It's about what is worth working for and what isn't. It is about the complicated and messy facts of what is required for the changes that you're trying to make to actually occur. There's always a level of idealization about things that we want to do or are ambitious about. Aries right now is looking at the nitty-gritty and saying, okay, what do I actually have to do? What are the actual sacrifices, and what is the actual work that needs to be done? So I look at that as a very practical place for Mercury to be saying, look, you're going to have to do specific things, make specific sacrifices, or change how you're doing things in order to get where you want to go. With Taurus in the 5th house, I think this has to do with pleasure, the pleasure body, creativity, children, pregnancy, sexuality, all things related to the house of pleasure and creativity in the 5th. So there's a shift of approach that is needing to happen here. And that can also involve your kids, if you have kids. For Geminis, we're talking about a process of revision and reflection, both mercurial and Venusian, located in the 4th house of home, property, parents, that domestic side of life, and the side of life that is about your private dwelling place. For Cancers, we're locating this in the 3rd house, which has a lot to do with learning and the mind, as well as the everyday environment. It has to do with culture and what you're looking to change with respect to the kind of culture that you inhabit on a day-to-day level. It's like making changes to the larger fish tank that you live in, or when changes take place, how do they affect you? Mind, body, mood, thought, environment, these are the kinds of topics that the Mercury retrograde in the 3rd house will activate for Cancers. For Leos, it has to do with what you value, your resources, what you possess, income and expenditures, things like money, the things that you're trying to develop or cultivate in terms of what you have or are in possession of, skills, resources. There is some need for editorial change or some kind of reflective and revision process there. For Virgos, it's all about you. The process has to do with revising or reflecting upon who you are, your identity, your mind, your body, what makes you tick, what you like and don't like. This is a chance to reflect upon and transform something about yourself. Could be physical, could be psychological, and to understand more unconscious or hidden dimensions of your own identity. For Libras, the 12th house brings up a process of reflecting upon unconscious material that will likely rise to the surface. It is possible that this unconscious material may have something to do with just you and your own psychology, or relationships with other people, or even communities of people. For Scorpios, this is the 11th house, the place of communities, groups, allies, and friends. And so I would watch for shifts or changes, revisions, and reflections upon your greater social connections. For Sagittarians, then your career house changes with respect to what you do, how you do it, who you work with, who you work for, authority in the workplace, the trajectory you're on professionally. There is a process of revision and reflection taking place there. For Caps, we're seeing this in the 9th place, the place of higher learning and education, beliefs, foreign countries, a process of reflecting on and revising beliefs or outlooks on life, or even your understanding of something that you're studying. Teachers could change, subjects could change. For Aquarians, we're seeing this in the 8th house, which means that there is a process of editing, revising, and reflecting upon the give and take or karmic exchanges in your relationships and what you value in others and what they value in you. And finally, for Pisceans, we have this taking place in the house of intimate relationships, love, sexuality, marriage, and interpersonal connections that are more important than, like these are the more interpersonally relevant or important relationships in your life that are requiring a process of change or revision. It can also indicate that a partner is going through some kind of shift or change that you're bearing witness to or supporting. Those are some of the brief things that come to my mind for the location of this Mercury retrograde in Virgo. You could also pair it with a little bit of the house of Leo. That might be something to do as well. If you want more on your horoscopes, you can always look at our horoscopes for August, which we did a little while back. I think they aired last week. So you could check those out too for more support. And I am off to, I want to say this place is called it's called the Wolf Lodge, and it's like a hotel. We're not staying there. I guess that there's like inner tubes. And so for my daughter's birthday, we are going to, I don't know, go down water slides, I guess. I'm excited because I feel like a kid getting to do this stuff. I'm not sure, I don't know how afraid of this stuff my kids are going to be. So it should be interesting. But apparently there's lots of stuff for kids to do here, and it was grandma's idea. I blame her. All right. Take it easy, everyone. Bye.